picture you want to open in Photoshop. I'm going to start from new. And to open, of course, we go File, Open, find your toy image. I sent mine from my computer, from my phone, so it is under Downloads. Wait, that's not it. There it is. All the green. Press OK. Open. Now you're going to have your image here. So the first thing I want to do, of course, keep my directions open so I can see, is to duplicate the layer. Now you can do that in several different ways. I like to use my layer menu when I do this and drag it into the plus sign and make a copy. It's just my quick way, but you can, of course, go layer, duplicate layer if you needed to, or feel like that's a better way for you. Now I have a background copy and I have a background. Then I am going to go to highlighting that first one, and I'm going to select the toy. So I'm on this one, and I'm going to go to Select Object Tool and grab it. It's going to think this like background is part of the stone here, and it's not, so I need to add that in. To add it in, I want to make sure I have this Add In button, so that's single, add in, subtract, intersect. So I'm going to add in this base again because I want my base for my super pet. And maybe I need to do a little more. And it'll kind of figure out what needs to be added in and what doesn't. You might also use a different selection tool if something is going awry. Right here in the back, there's a little something that's going awry. So I'm going to go to my lasso tool and I'm going to subtract from it and just get that little bit of green off, and that looks better. Oh, and there's some in here. Sometimes I find it easier to use the selection tool than the quick select object tool, especially in an area like that where I want it to be all selected and it was not getting it. Okay, so now I'm going to go to select and mask. Hopefully you have this set up already. We've used it before, and you've had remember settings. If not, make sure you have it on black, or that's my favorite, on black, because I can see it better, but they have all these different options for that. And then you can kind of play with the sliders to make it look better. And we're looking at the edge here. It looks a little too smooth for me, maybe a little too much, maybe a little less feathering. And you're playing with the sliders till you get it where you like it. I'm making sure there's no like green grass coming in. And maybe I want to shift edge a little bit, right, a little that way. And then the main thing though is to do output settings, decontaminate colors, new layer with layer mask. Press OK. And now I have 3 layers. I'm going to go ahead and call this layer toy, because if I turn off all these layers, you'll see it's just the toy by itself. I'm going to turn back on background copy, and I'm going to call that one blur. And we'll get to that in a minute. And then I should be good on this slide. And I'm going to go to the next slide. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I've already done the naming, but I'm going to put a gradient mask on here. So the mask tool is this little Japanese flag. And then I go to a gradient. I like it black and white, so that's good. And then I'm just going to drag it. And you'll notice that, oh, wait, that's not what I want to do yet. Before I get there, I want to show you so you can see it. So I'm going to make a blur. So I'm going to go to blur first. So I'm going to click on the image instead of the mask, and I'm going to go to blur. And for this one, I'm going to use box blur. Box blur is kind of like a pixelated blur. You can see it like makes little kind of boxes that blur it. So, and I think about what kind of blur do I want? Do I want it really blurry, not so blurry, all that stuff. You'll notice again the toy is on top because I've cut it out, so that's nice. And the blur is behind. But I want it to kind of seamlessly go. Right now it just kind of blurred everything, but I want it to look a little more natural. So I'm going to do the gradient blur mask. So I did a mask, Japanese flag, mask, tool, and then now I'm going to take my gradient, and you'll see what happens is either I can make it all blurry in the front because I was going up and down, or I just switch the way it's going and do it in the back. Anywhere that's black is going to be not the layer, right? Anywhere that's white is going to be that blur. I can even move this little diamond, but I think this is on the newer version, not the version y'all are using, but I can move this diamond and it will show me where the blur is. That's a nice new tool that they've added in, which is great. Before you had to keep trying until you get it to the right space, but that looks good. And that means that I'm done with this one. So the next step is to Command S for save. We're just saving it as a Photoshop. I'm going to put toy. And that's just to make sure you have your layers and that you're saving it. So that's good. I'm going to save that. And then the next step is to save a copy. This is super important because we're going to make different copies for different blurs. And you want to make sure that you have it. So I'm going to go more, and actually make my life even easier is I'm going to go back to the slideshow and I'm just going to go copy this right here. Command C, Command V up here. Okay, and then I'm going to replace your last name with my last name, which you would do your own last name so you know it's yours. Okay, and I'm saving it as a JPEG. We're saving a copy, saving it as a JPEG so I can put it in my Google Slideshow. Google Slideshow will not take a PSD, but you wanted the PSD because you want to make sure that you have one copy saved. All that work you've done making the adjustments can be saved. Say, yep, replace it. That's because I had already done it once, right? Okay. And now I'm ready to go and do this again. So, but I'm going to take off this blur. I'm going to make a copy of it. Or actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to make a copy of the background. And then I'm going to drag this mask down because I know I want to use it again. But I'm going to throw this away. It'll make my life easier later, but I did want you to see where you were doing your mask. So that's why we did it that way first. But now this will make your life easier. And I'm going to call this blur 2, just so I remember that this is my second blur. Okay. Now I'm going on. So here we are. I'm going on. And now I'm going to go to... okay, I'm doing Gaussian blur next. I was trying to remember what blur I'm doing. So this is one of my favorite blurs. It's got a nice softness to it. So I'm going blur, Gaussian blur. And again, sliders help you move it. But you can see I've already got that mask, so it makes my life easy. I can decide where I want it. Is it really blurred? Is it sort of blurred? Is it more like that kind of blur? Just wherever you feel it's comfortable. And press OK. Perfect. And now I'm saving another copy. And this time I, again, make my life easy. I could go here and just copy this. Command C, Command V, put my name, and then change this JPEG and press save. Press OK. So this is actually even easier than what we did before because I'm going to go to the history. The history is right here, usually out in my one, but it might not be. Go window history, and this window will open up. And you can see it's showing you all your steps. We're just going back one step before the Gaussian blur, right? And now we're going to go and we're going to do another blur. Okay? So it should all be set up for us, easy peasy. And this time we're going to... motion blur. Okay, and motion blur, you can change the direction of your blur and by the angle here, so you can figure out what way you want. In the directions I did up and down, but you don't have to because I felt like he was coming from space, but maybe we wanted it sideways. You can also do less distance, more distance, right? We can do all kind of things. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to press OK on that. And then I did decide, I want some more, some more blur to come a little on this edge here. And a way to do that is to take your paintbrush tool, and we're going to use the white paintbrush tool on our mask. And you can kind of come in here and get some of those areas. So it kind of does more of a blur all the way to my object, right? And then, so you can see here on the mask, it gives you a little more of that blur. And you can refine. This is a great part about Photoshop, is that you can really work with this tool to make it the best or whatever you want. So there we go. Looks good. So now I'm going to say save a copy again. And again, I'm going to go to the directions and say motion blur. Or I could just write all of this every time. I just find the quickest possible way, right? And change that to JPEG. Change the name. Save. Okay. And that looks good. So now we're going to the next one. And we are totally down here. Look how quick this is going. So then the next one we're going to do is a radial blur. For the radial blur, I am going to go and do the same thing where I go to the history menu and do the last blur. There we go. All the way back to name change. Okay. And then we're going to go to make sure we're on the image, not the mask. That's important. And we're going to go to the radial blur. And this one's cool because you can change where it goes. I'm putting the subject matter where he is in the picture, right? So I'm kind of thinking, oh, where is he? But I could do it the opposite way. Let me do it actually the opposite way just so we get an idea. Maybe we'll make it look up. There's spin, there's zoom. I was doing zoom for this. And there's good and best, and then there's less amount or more amount. You can kind of decide. Unfortunately, this one does not have a like preview, so you have to kind of try it. If you don't like the way it looks, Command Z and do it again. And it takes a little longer, but you can see now it's kind of got this godlike zoom coming in, that light kind of look. And again, maybe I want to come back in with some paintbrush tool. I'm still on the paintbrush tool, so that makes it easy. And maybe I want to paint in some of this area here, paint in some area here. And you can see you can do all kind of cool things with that. Again, it's nice to know that Photoshop can do this stuff and really give you some interesting tools to use in your artwork. Okay, so again, save a copy. This time we are on the radial blur. So we're copying this one up here. Press OK. Don't forget to save it as a JPEG. And always make sure you're saving a copy because each one of these need to be turned in separately. Okay? And we're trying to do it quick, but not so quick you don't have the pieces that you need to turn in. Okay, so next, again, history menu. Getting back to the kind of what we have been doing. Go back to name blur, name change, and then we are going to go to blur gallery this time. You got to make sure you're on the image. I was on that mask again. And we're using filled blur this time. And filled blur makes it look like an actual f-stops. And you can pull this and it makes it interesting. These are really, the blur gallery is really an interesting kind of tool to use. You can move it around. And there's also over here, as well as there is bokeh changes, color changes, all that stuff is here. Okay. Press OK when you get it to where you want it. Again, file, save a copy. Easy peasy. This one's called field blur. Save. Press OK. And guess what? Going back in history again. So easy peasy. Go up to name change and you are ready to go. Okay, so we're back at the name change again. We've done field blur. This time I'm going to show you a little trick because the ones that are in the gallery are actually made to be without using content aware or finding the toy. So I'm going to undo the eyeball for the toy here, and then I'm going to click on the background layer. So now the only eyeball that I'm using is the background layer. That's the only selection that I'm using. So just so you can see layer visibility. And then I'm going to go to filter, and this time I'm going to go iris blur. Again, is showing me like what you would get with vignetting in a camera. So you can see it's kind of like a vignette, kind of like what you got on Instagram if you use the vignette blur tool. This is also kind of how the iPhones do it. You know, it gives you like this like weird vignetting. You can also drag this here to make it more blurry, less blurry. Again, you do have some effects down here that you could use. Noise, you can change it to grainy. There is more that you can change it to make it look more interesting, but also we're focusing on something. Press OK. And now you have a film grainy. And then we go File, Save As. I'm doing these pretty intensely just so y'all see the difference, but when you're using them, you would use them less. And this one's the iris blur, so I'm grabbing those words. JPEG. Save. Okay. And then again, we'll go back before it says name change, and we've gotten back to where we started. It's so easy, isn't it easy? You can just quickly do it. Okay, so now we're gonna do the tilt shift blur, which is an interesting blur. They use this for title pages a lot, which is kind of cool, and they use it for different things. But they use it for real life people to make them look like toys, but we're using it for toy. So, but this is also something you have on Instagram too, where it gives you the fuzziness. Oh, I need to turn off this toy. Oh no, I guess but I'm going to turn this on. Okay. Filter. Blur gallery, tilt shift. There we go. And you're going to notice it's going to give you areas where it's in focus and areas where it's not. You can move that. You can make it bigger. You can make it more out of focus. If you did this with a train, or if you were like did it with a football game, it would look like the little people are definitely part of the toys world. Okay, looks good. Yes, that's a fun one. They also a tilt shift comes from a camera setting, because you can actually buy tilt shift lenses, and they actually tilt. That's why it's called tilt shift. But it makes it look fuzzy on both edges. Totally a cool thing, something to look up if you're interested. Oop, I didn't save it as a JPEG. Hey, but it's always good to save as a Photoshop every once in a while. But I will save it as a JPEG. Sometimes it happens. Almost done. Last one. Oh wait, second to last one. So now we're gonna do a gallery path blur. And that one's cool. So again, go back in your history. This one allows you to blur it on a path that you make. So you can see I have this path here. Oops. You can see I'm just on the toy. Well, that might be interesting. Let's see. See? But that's not what I want. I want to be on the background layer. Thank you. So I'm going to go to filter, blur gallery, path tool. And then this one you can make into any kind of path you want. It could curve. It could go this way, curve back this way. Can make it. It could be done in a crazy way, and you have a lot of control on this. And then you would press OK. And you can do speed, and I forgot to show all that, but speed and stuff in there. Look at the sliders, play around with them. So then you're going to go to save a copy again. And of course, just going to grab it. And press OK. And now we are going to go to the second to last one. Oh no, this is the last one. So we're going to go spin gallery. So then you're going to go to name change again. Again, filter, blur gallery, and this time we're doing the spin. So this is kind of the funkiest. I like it, but it kind of looks like a warp. I'm going to put that behind my toy. You can make him bigger. You can change the spin. Oh, I add in a second one. You could leave in second one, whatever you want. I'm trying to make it bigger. There you go. And then you have your blur angle over here. Maybe you want it more, less, however you feel like you want it. And then you press OK. And then it's going to take a second. While that's going up, I'm going to go ahead and open my turn in one, which looks like this, which is your last bit. This is going to take a second to load, but we're going to go into finding which is which. So we're going to go insert, and this should be attached to your Google Classroom, so you can turn it in and hit on the photo and then say replace image, upload from computer. And then you should be able to find that you have all of your blurs. So the first one here is the box blur. Where I put it. There. Box blur. Open. It was a crooked, so I'm going to take it and wrap it. Don't forget, these boxes I just put in. If you need to change anything to make yours work, change it by double clicking. It'll make it work. Replace image again. So this one, I'm looking for the Gaussian blur. And hopefully they all are named correctly, so it'll make your life easy while you are putting them in. And this is why you want to make sure that you saved everything. This one's motion blur. See, they're all nice in order because I named them the exact same thing except for their names. Wait, what was that one? Radio. Oh, I was on the right one. Oops. Field. Replace image. And it's nice to see these blurs next to each other because that's the whole point. It's kind of like a Photoshop cheat sheet that you're making so that you can see what all the blurs do. When you're ready to go back and use them for the next big project, you're going to be using them. So you would know which ones that maybe you want to go back to. Oop, wrong one. It was iris blur. Perfect. Okay, so now this is ready to submit. So then you would take your document and press turn in. Good job.